Alright, this is also Janju Sem Yeje, and you won't be paying career Sane on the kissing, and the Janju Sim paying some da, Janju Sim Ye, and the get some da Delia, and Janju Sim Gomiata, Yamlin Chia, Yabe, Dumbatang, George was cool, go spot, the bear, what is my George was cool, yes. Is that and the negate Janju Sim be paying the nature is some Yamlin Javala, Yanla Timbucone, and Chatsavana, Jiggy, then it's also Tipjan, and Janju Sim Yamlin Jehores. Just that Janju Sim the pain the and so do Shava in the Negapta, Negapi pain the Tarduit, pain Nina the Durugores, Negapi pain the Garrisone, when the Lada, when you go out of the Nasung Dungal, when they go out of Den Delia, when you go out Den Delia, and the Chicken, Lada me, Digi Noya, Den Delia, Nangazo Sosa Tipjan, Gedik, Gewat. Saya dan tiba saya dia, udus tu tin kaba dus tu gores, mun negap je, dan taru ya ane ngele ko bang toya di res, jesa nyumo ba sabon na je ba bang ni bang bigi tarbi ko bang toya da, ane ya nyumo sabon bacha na je ba ne, ane tamji kya sanji ko bang toya di res, jesa dine za janju semji penyen ma so na janju sem nyamsu len bigi, ane jewol ma so dine de yung gores, kisi ngazo dine ke
Good evening. Last time we looked at how it's important to reflect and recall again and again the many benefits of generating bodhicitta. And the purpose of recalling the benefits of bodhicitta is that by doing so, it will give rise to a yearning to become a bodhisattva oneself. And through this aspiration to become a bodhisattva, one will engage in the process of accumulating virtue and purifying non-virtue. In other words, preparing one's mind to generate bodhicitta through a technique such as the 7 limb practice. And so those benefits of bodhicitta are twofold, those which are temporary and then the final or ultimate benefits. So the temporary benefits are that by progressing towards and generating bodhicitta, one will not be born in the lower realms, but will attain a rebirth in the higher realms. And then the ultimate benefit is that one will become a Buddha. One will attain enlightenment and be of great benefit to others.
Lamrim Yamlen Dambo Che, the Embad, Kiwi Shin, Tenzu Comia de Roa, that he in jail ma and the girls than Kibu Chumona tomorrow meeting, but the Jinga tomorrow meeting, but the Niki would chimbala meeting by Chanan, Yamlen Che, the Kosu Hetiroa. Then is that Kiwi Shin, Tenzu, Yamlen by Ma, Sung Sa, de Jeliada, Kiwu Chumia Lamirin by Yamlen, Wudi, Mashiba, the Gampara delia, and Jike. Gumjero, that you sing a pain down, and then Gom Gubi, Gumjana, the Mangu Sunadi, Tizada, Yamlin Chevala, the nigger Lamrim Sonsaki Chidu to generation, use me a pain, she and use him that never pain, then hard to and then you're just not use him combina, and Jig Yama Sabi, Dipatia, Diana, and Dipasado Masoba, and Kiwi, Janjusim Gunia, and the Kawakara Saba in there. The Gawat Bem was a Topchimush, Chago said to Yundan Shibushi do that Dondala go casual mask casual the Yundan she do many Dujadigilia, that changes simply a Donelia, not changes all that bay out, that changes something Yaman Jodas him, Donia Dubaye, Dondal Sungo over that.
So where we are in the text is, as you can see, only a few pages have passed, many still lie before us. And of the primary outlines that we've looked at in the Lamrim thus far, Lama Tsongkhapa has presented how to rely on a spiritual teacher, and thereafter the precious human rebirth. And we are about to come to the trainings that are shared with a practitioner of initial capacity. But where we are now is just before we start on those trainings, which are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, is we coming to see how the Lamrim is divided and presented in a particular sequence of trainings and why that is so. And here, the very purpose is being presented, which is to attain enlightenment. This text is called the graduated stages of training in order to attain enlightenment, the Lamrim. And therefore, to attain enlightenment, one has to generate bodhicitta. So right now, at the very outset, Lama Tsongkhapa is making reference to the benefits of bodhicitta, because all the trainings that will follow are to be done with the attainment of bodhicitta and eventual enlightenment as one's objective. So even right now, before one starts on the actual trainings that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, the benefits of bodhicitta are presented so that one from now generates a yearning to become a bodhisattva. So that will be the overarching aim within which we engage in these trainings.
Oh yeah, that is that delia dela ngundu so dela ngundu se that ngun dela se du janshu sem gi nyamlen jeba dela chapa chimbu chu janshu sem nyamlen jeba dela so da dela di jeba la ngundu khar ko gore sin di nye la gar deji je gore sana ko gore sin ngundu ngele gi phen ni bo dela ane top de jela sa jeba la jiza di nye le ya ane 장주 쌤 냠는 제발라 다 디몬드 고바나 아니 겔레 고바세디 니디 아직 디 토고도 쌤비게 돈여유 좀 쉬게 오래서 뭐 될라 원도다 겔레 편니 니보데라 톱되 제발라 네 기부 딩당 가서 기부 충 딩당 투모에 삼바 기고서.
Let's turn to the text then. So in the handout, the ebook, we're at the very top of page 81. And for those with the published book, we're at the last paragraph on page 70. Just looking at the first sentence. So to first develop the wish to attain those two benefits. So those two benefits refers to the temporary and ultimate or long-term benefit of temporary or final benefits, temporary and final benefits that were mentioned above. And now they mention again, higher states and definite goodness, that's the temporary. One must develop the attitudes common to persons of lesser and medium capacity.
Then, dela ngondo sere dela se ade chanju sem nyamlen chavala anu ngondo karusone bene disuro de bene dela se adi ne chanju sem nyamlen chavala chanju sem gi de phen jebu the end topic devudi topic donyi tumba ki hokores dizadi ke de gar tobde de jebu de gar song onto da ngele kisin shi shu ba na jin jaju semgi phen de jebu de jaju sem gombi ge phen am je phen le ne jebu se ro jebu debu de gar yong se ne nya ga pon de ko ba to ya da ko ba top tin de le di ju ya an tar do ngele to ya yong gore se she yo de jesan di she yo de song ba yan za di ni bo de 토비하게 토고도 산비게다 토득이 삼바데 되녀리 dum바데 기고를 해서 편이 보때 데라 토득이 겔라스.
As mentioned, the very purpose of this text is to guide the practitioner to transform their mind so that they become a Buddha, they attain enlightenment. To enter into those paths that lead to enlightenment, one has to generate bodhicitta. Here we are looking at, firstly, we looked at last week, the benefits of bodhicitta, so as to give rise to a yearning to become a bodhisattva. So those benefits were presented as temporary, those of higher states, and as well as definite goodness, in other words, liberation and enlightenment. And that's what's referred to here. So to first develop the wish to attain those two benefits, higher states and definite goodness.
지제기 원료고 톱디게 삼바기고 데 가르스는 디니엘이 양쪽이다. 지자다 원료고 나송의 동을에 타르체 하다미고 지 토고도 디마톱든 탑미노선 베게 되니 dum바기고 와 디게발 가르스고 간스키고 그랬는데 제가 연된 통화제 제가 원도 하다 미국 고방 토바네 나송의 동안에 탈고 제가 나송의 동안에 용 먹어 예외 동안 용고 말에 아니 둔주 이다이 동안 용고 말 둔주 동안 용고 대절의 동안에 탈고 이 마세 하다 미국 고방 토바네 딘 텔이야 아니 소수기 디바 사야디에 마 디바티에 마 아니 생알 사바디에 마 디바 샤야다 이니 개와 두비야 and the Tarpata Tamji Kimbo go to Lam Yamnijo, Chasa, Yamnijo, go bear or regular teacher, that Sanji you go to Toyada, the Tawachim Yuchi, Yamnicheve, that cabaret, the Nishi Toku, the one you go about Maton, and the Nanson do like yours over the Chuchia go over regular mother. And then Chu Toya, Amjo Toya, your mother, Turna Sosugi, and Dunga Young over Mazek, or to Yaka, your Marchesa, the names that one you go on the Yunde, to the 지지도 연대 통제다 디마도 탑이노 셈베 돈이 dum바디 기호고래 에세지 원돌레시 집안에 디스무로 와다 원
So what we are seeing here is from even before we embark on the trainings which are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, Lama Tsongkhapa is showing to us how to envelop the motivations of the various trainings within the Mahayana. So one must first give rise to a determination to achieve a rebirth in the higher state, so again as a human or God. So here one generates the determination, in order to become a Buddha for the sake of others, I have to generate bodhicitta. In order to generate bodhicitta, I need to engage in extensive accumulation and purification. And to do that, I have to hear teachings and reflect on those teachings. To be able to do that, I have to have an excellent rebirth like I have now, life after life, as I progress in my trainings. Therefore, I must ensure that in my very next rebirth, I do not fall to the lower realms, but I once again attain an excellent rebirth. So in this way, one is generating a motivation for a good rebirth, but one is doing so within the parameters or within a envelope of the motivation of the Mahayana.
중국의 톱도 된 돈이 든바게 가서 원료 고방 토요 돈이 든바게 니네 마세 안에 다야 딜이야 삼체다 다 원료 고방 토바이나 하다 미된에 동아 요라 강아도 제자다 내나세 동아 안데 지기 중화 시투비 경기 동아 강아제야다 안디네 지기冒出的那个头呢刚刚包都没把这个동아도 제자다 내다 녀몽이 계친제라 동아 강야제 딜에 탈비기다 탈바세야 토구도 세비고 녀모바 가서 강아 콜레다 녀모의 기위기 화발의 기위 개와 될 탈바 토구도 선배게다 삼로게 오래 디톱되게 된 얘기 좀 받게 개고 오래 해서 지금 뭐로다 세상 톱되게 개고 오래 해서
the motivation is developed ever further. So staying with this first line, higher states and definite goodness, that having given rise to a wish for a rebirth in the higher realms and not to fall in the lower realms, one reflects, but even when one attains rebirth in the higher realms, such as a human, one still suffers. One still suffers from illness, from the decline of the body, from conflicts and so forth. Therefore, I need to gain liberation from the entirety of samsara, not just the lower realms, but the higher realms too.
예다 기부 중인다 교사 원dio 고방 토디게 삼바제 단 토바 단 아니 원dio 교사 넬레 지 고방 토에 돈이 듬바제 발라 지성 원dio 고방 토에기 돈이 듬바제 발라 다 기부 중원의 투모의 람지린 바들 로장국을 삼바데 장국을 삼바 기부를 해서다 기부를 해서 지산데 기부 중당 가소래 넬레기 아니 지게 타르엘에 세도 토브되게 되니 듬바제 발라 기부 중다 투모의 삼바 장국을 제산 기부 중원다 증기 투모의 삼바 기고에서 세도 중원의 장국을 해서
Now looking at the entirety of this first sentence, so to first develop the wish to attain those two benefits, the benefits of bodhicitta, higher states and definite goodness, one must develop the attitudes common to persons of lesser medium capacity. So the trainings in order to attain higher states or good rebirths, those trainings are included within the trainings shared with the practitioner of initial or lesser capacity, and to attain definite goodness or complete liberation from cyclic existence. Those trainings are shared with the practitioner of intermediate or medium capacity.
ngazo lobsan ma so na rimba dangbo den chang ore pene dangbo pene ngan ji 가르스보레 지게 benengal tiansa da jala chuje jala gambada be jikhure sa yenden shuxie ro da gambada jamba da gambada jilya ya chen digi thone lega shu lega yor an je tugure an benjo sa ben so so lega chilo ro so so nangle de chen lega le tugure an ji ba ji tarang bu shu na de le ji xie tugure sa da yenden shu ji je de da ji gambada de majan da tiansa ro so yo ma de se ji yor ba da xie yo de ne 당아 감부터 장고도서 배동을 끼우러와 기된다 당아 감부터 장고 돈이게 되다 한저랑 감부터 장배는 일에 이 장고래라고 그러다 인지 장고래서 이 장고래서 이 말은 감부터 신 바로 받아 진짜 이 장고래서 이 롭종 장고래서 다 이 롭종 장고 대자 네 야고 돈이 니시에 감부터 야고 자야 된다라 야고 자야 된다라 이 장고래서 이 장화는 그냥 아니 가서 엔진 마선 당보 에비세 당보 딘 마장 거래서 두스는 고주고 당보 얘네 연대네 시 연대자 디다 돈이 dum바게도 디 고고에는 그냥 디 장고래서 디 장화는 내내야 고주고 그래서 맨날 고주다 시고라 디나시 산지 고방하셔야 돼 장시sem도 장시sem이 판연 쉬우지 다 장시sem도 아니면 제고도 새벽 돈이 dum바게 해도 안디 제발 그냥 계부 이 중후당 가서기 원도 고방 토도기 돈이 숙시 못 깨고 그래서지. 대디게와는 안당보 가르자 그래서는 두모와 남장 그랬어. 어디고 장난 림버드 마송 거든 어때.
The attainment of higher states or the trainings to attain higher states, rebirth as a human or God. These are the specific trainings found within the found for practitioners of initial or lesser capacity, but they are being presented here in the context of the overall attainment of the goals of the Mahayana, so that one is being encouraged from the very outset to have the goals of the Mahayana as your objective. So even before one gets to the trainings that are shared with practitioners of initial capacity, one is encouraged to generate the desire to become a bodhisattva and to fulfill the aspiration of the bodhisattva attainment of enlightenment. And thereby, using this motivation to engage in the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity. So this can be likened to perhaps a child who's very enamored with technology and enjoys playing perhaps computer games and expresses a wish to perhaps work in that field because it's a lot of fun. Then their parents can use that wish of the child to motivate them to study all that is required so that they eventually can work in that field. So in order to study computer science, one needs to have learn programming. To learn programming, one needs to know one's own language. One needs to and to start to learn one's own language, one needs to start at the ABCs. So in this way, in the same way that a parent, when their child is enjoying computer games and then wanting to get involved in technology, can use that aspiration to encourage them to start with the basics, to start developing the foundation so that they can eventually do so. That is the same technique Lama Tsongkhapa is using here. First, by guiding us to give rise to this aspiration to become a bodhisattva, we then are introduced to the trainings in the correct sequence that we need to engage in so as to actually become a bodhisattva.
That that Kivu Chung, the Mundio Komotoya, Kivu Chung, the Tumor Samba Jango, Chesadan, Kivu Chung, the Tumor Samba Jang, the Karis in the one ma Shuere. Chesa Dundala, Manju Samba Karis Chango Resine, Chesan Kivu Chung Samba Jang City, Nyawa, the Ida, the Dunroga, Ganga, Kong Tiki Samba, Jenny, Delegenda, Ganga, the Jungdua, Ma Delegenda, and that church a co of Ragimino, and the Chicky Sem Yamlan Chia co of Ragimare, Jenny Tikwai. Chige dunga nyongo ya re dunga nyongo maze dendelia and chikewa tu ya ka mindu sosa tipchan ya mindu sembege samno yene da dele de ta hudu dele ta madan da ta minwa dele ta na gawaki was ngonde ko ba to hudu ngonde ko ba to ba na ane ngaso dunga nyongo ya alhada mi dewa to dewa nyoya dele kanga kare bene susu kanga sege tabla yue de dine za and then dine said when you go about dele che nya go up to che gom je nyamlen che da sa go ya go ra du some dine ge sam dang du di sam dang ne dang du da ji wu chung de tu mo ge sam lo pa di du sin sam dang lo jang go dine sam da dine za da ji won de go ba de to gu ma to ne tap min lu se be ge da to de ge de ye sam ba su ge de di to ye ge de le yu ga jang go ra sin de and di won go ba to ye de 주름 소야다. 근데 진배년을 세배년에 제야되게 두시네 디 장고도 선배되는 바 두시네 삼로이 류마이 순유권에 샬라 뉴비게 디바치기메 선배 소야다. 아니지 동회 선바 진배년에 제야 두시에 되는 기부 충분도 투모에 선배로 잡아서 지난 기부 투모 선배 투모로 잡아서도 그 미유디 가르레스네 제와 치마 디기 잠 제와 치마기 원조 고방 좀 디잠 디기주에 디잠 좀 당거 말아. 그래서 상业고방 토고 전유선 태바 치미 최년에 제고도 지난 디 제발라 지장 완성 개발 나다 제투에 고가 민도아 지장 강아 체계도 강아 동아 용고야 맞에 또 고가 뒤내미도 되는서 원조 고방 토와는 디 델이야 냠네 제고도 디고 샤야다 소소 디제지야 냠네 차상 제고라고도 디 토고도 선배 섬다데 지나 기우디 삼다제 냠는 제바데 기우 총 투모에 삼바 장와서 고미유디 산지고방 토예제 태바침에 쉬 냠는 제가 단다라 가르고고스네 디제발라 딘체바제네 원조고방도 고고도 디토고도 선배게 제가 태바침에 쉬 냠는 제가 단다라 아니 원조고방 토고도 선배게 디토비하게 단다라 아니 원조고방 토비규 아니 가서 주름 써야 돼 진배님은 제 지고로와 지선 디니자 기부 충원의 투모와 삼바 정화하시되 디 삼바 정도 투모와 삼바 정화라 유도 디 태바침이 취해 냠는 저어야 되게 최고래 그 베드가선 미유디 태바침이 취해 냠는 제라 디 냠는 제디 토고 주선베게 지선 디 델라 디니 삼 당전의 제바들 투모와 삼바 정화하시고래
We'll soon be coming to the trainings of a practitioner of initial capacity. And they include, for example, the reflection on the actual situation for beings born in the lower realms. One reflects on how would it be if I were to be born there in my very next life. And it reflects in this way to give rise to a deep desire not to be born there. And moreover, one's desire not to be born over there isn't merely not wanting to suffer, although that is part of the determination to develop. A further part of the determination to develop is that if I'm born there, if I'm born in the lower realms, not only will I suffer immensely, but I will not be able to engage in further spiritual development. I will not be able to hear and understand teachings or have the capacity to reflect and meditate on teachings. So how will I develop bodhicitta? How will I progress towards enlightenment? How will I be of meaningful benefit to others? So in this way, one engages in the trainings shared with the practitioner of initial capacity. And to understand this, the terminology of saying a training is shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, This indicates that the training is that of a practitioner of initial capacity, but it is conjoined with a different motivation, a motivation of great capacity, a motivation of the Mahayana. So thereby, a practitioner who aspires to the Mahayana will engage in the trainings shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, for example, reflecting on the lower realms, giving rise to the determination, I do not want to be born there, I want to be born in the higher realms, therefore I will engage in ethical restraint. And one reflects on ethical restraint, the commitment not to harm others through one's physical behavior or speech. And one reflects on generosity, the wish to give of oneself, and patience, the further determination not to harm but to forbear any hardships, as well as joyous perseverance. And this is all done not only to prevent rebirth in the lower realms, but to prevent rebirth in the lower realms in order to continue one's spiritual journey to become a bodhisattva and become a Buddha. So this then is the meaning of a training being shared with a practitioner of, in this case, initial capacity. One engages in that meditation with the goal of the Mahayana, the goal of Buddhahood. And this motivation that one generates at the outset of the meditation, one holds in mind throughout the entirety of that reflection. So whilst one is engaging in a reflection of a practitioner of initial capacity, one is doing so conjoined with the motivation of a practitioner of great capacity. Hence it's said to be a training shared, not a training unique to, a training shared with the practitioner of initial capacity.
Denigi gibu chungo dan tumoya lamji rimba changan digi tepa chimbi chue nyamlen ji jihela gozu gorda nyamlen chehela kaso ngondro jangor ngondro chesada tepa chimbi chue nyamlen chehegi ngondro di jangor chesa gibu chungo da tumoya lamji rimba da gibu chungo da tumoya lamji rimba nyamlen chehedu tepa chimbi chue nyamlen ji ngondro di nyamlen chehor chesa ngondro chesa di du shin jigi tepa chimbi chue chesa da gibu chungo zamji tepa chue shena 내려야 장주승의 파연 시험과 가야 말 탈비기 파연 시험과 말 걸려야 아니 하다 미고 뭐 토고 될 토야게 된다 디 톱니 되는 요라서 원주 고방기 근데 원주랑기 아니 개최의 연된디게 시 되는 원주 고방 토야게 된다라 안 탑람데 마송의 디고로 받아 그 탈바 기부 충을 남잠시바 송바네 다데데 가로 송고로서 렘렘 나라 가로 송고서는 제가 당보 기부 충을다 남기는 맛이 내려야 아니 가서 tepa chimbi chue janshu sem sangye janshu sembe nyamlendige janshu sembe panyenda yuandende maa xie dinege xie ne odadi yakudo asimchen tamchege dona pandoche janshu sem nyamlen jegozo donyi yu dunba kiengodu an dangbo du xien dati samdangore dene samdangore xie chesan di chidu ngondro nganzo dirubabde gomje nyamlen chedu ngondro karcho nganzo jige tsam debayi ne ngondro liya ane jige juwe churuk jewa jeruwa bene 강바디게 장모수야 다 딘딘야다 검제 디고 검제 되게 드리지고로 받아 진짜 디니 차상 사선의 대신에 안디가 되어진 검제로 안디나시 태바침배 전유심 냠는 제발라 원로 디수바도 두치는 자에 원로 있는데 원로시도 대변에 원로 인가서 검제 원로 검제 된다라 강바다 장모수야 딘 딘지도 검제에게 드리고 주고로 받아 검제고 드리지는 고주고로 봐 디나시 다 차바 침비게 장슈 심비 냠는 디체도 세베 삼다는데 내게 원도 안에 기부 충묘 남기림바 두스체는 냠는 삼다이데 차바 침비 취 원도 냠는 제데 차바 침비 취 냠는 제야고 디 두고 디 촐래 두고 다고 대전 원도 차고 차바 침비 취 냠는 제 원도 냠는 차고 그래
In a further way this can be understood is, and it will be presented a little further on, is that the trainings that are shared with practitioners of initial and intermediate capacity, these are the actual preliminary practices of someone wanting to engage in the actual Mahayana meditations. Without engaging in the preliminaries, one is not one is not developed sufficiently or qualified to actually engage in those meditations. So earlier in the book, the Lama Tsongkhapa presented the preliminaries to the meditation session, cleaning the meditation room, arranging the shrine, sitting correctly, and so forth. So there are those, I think, 6 preliminaries to do before the meditation session. Here Lama Tsongkhapa is presenting that the preliminary practices to actually engage in the meditations of the Mahayana are those meditations which are shared with practitioners of initial and intermediate capacity. Then with that understanding, when one engages in those meditations of the initial and intermediate capacity, one does so conjoined with the motivation of the Mahayana, because one knows that one is doing this meditation as a preliminary to engage in the actual meditations of the Mahayana. And in this way, a meditation that would otherwise be of a practitioner of initial capacity is actually a practice shared with the Mahayana, because it is going in that direction, in that it is held by the motivation of the Mahayana. And again, that motivation is generated at the outset, but it is maintained throughout, in that it's conjoined with that meditation. So in this way, the Mahayana motivation is generated at the beginning, maintained throughout, and is the very final goal of these practices. And in this way, we understand them to be preliminaries.
Dedar penyi la topdu kine pen jengi sem gomba na ne di zawa jamba da niji chimpo kiekwe las.
Continuing in the text, once one has developed the wish to gain those 2 benefits, then to cultivate that beneficial mind, one needs to develop its root, love and compassion.
제가 대דר penyi topdu kine so 제가 penyi 수 원dio 고바다 전주 심기 공비기 제보 penyi 가르 제보를 가르 용 것은 대신 원dio 고바나 엘레니 요레스 주와 제가다 penyi 바니 제대 penyi 토고도 선비게 삼로 다티마도는 원dio 고바 토고도 엘레세데 토고도 선비게 삼로 토도기 되니 두바기요도 안에 가르었으네 디 제네 안에 가르서 디 토고도 선비게 삼다데 that 가르었으네 penyen semni kia hore si chidu janju sem tribu yonsa yu penyen sigoda penyen si dela dina yonsa ki da pedeji janju sem sigura penyen janju sem gom hore es jizna janju sem gom hore es.
Once one has developed the wish to gain those 2 benefits, so that the 2 benefits again refers to the paragraph above, where the benefits of bodhicitta, temporary and final, were presented, or those of higher states and definite goodness. When those two benefits, one has a wish to gain them, one will want to meditate bodhicitta.
다 되네게 janjisum gomba janjisum gom고로 janjisum gom고래 지나다 penyi janjisum gyule kiene gom바야라 안에 가르고고라서네 지나다 디게 규딜을 가르고고래 시도다 셈 데서 장슈 셈 데서 셈 디서 장슈 셈 디 자와시데 자와 규세고다 자규 자와 만데 신을 마소나 자와야 동부계게 자와세고라 어디나 장슈 셈 유 자와디 장슈 셈 디 자와 잠바다 니지 기고여서 지산 장슈 셈 디 가벌을 때는 기고라서는 잠바다 니지 공부할 때는 기고고래 지산 장슈 셈이 규디 잠바다 니지 차고래 잠바다 니지 공부 기고고래 지산 데니기 원대당 내래 탐지의 편의적인 전주심도 주제발라 안디 랑이 줄을 공부할란 디 가르고 기니에 유지리 가르치고선 잠바다 니지 기고래 해서 나마 전주심 그 두스네 림바드마 송고르바다.
The sentence is working from the goal backwards in that first, once one has developed the wish to gain those 2 benefits. So the benefits of bodhicitta, once one has developed that wish, one will then want to generate bodhicitta. Wanting to generate bodhicitta, one will then want to cultivate the causes of bodhicitta, namely love and compassion, with love and compassion being the very root of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta being generated will lead to the attainment of those two results, the temporary and the final results.
Tsongkhapa 마서나 총디게는 배 캡산 되네라고 캡산 되네 여러사데 지금 캡산 망고시 야고셔도 아니 캡산이 봐 캡산야 디드라고도 선배 삼다 다딩하라고 선배 돈이 듬바게 돼 어디 캡산이라고 돈이 듬바게 안 저라 내가 드셔 그래서 내가 된 거다 내가 되는 신이라기래 내가 맞은 자기 말했어 지로와 언도 된 거. 디나신 다지 송나디게 제산 자주신게 판연디게 연된디게 배 캐주디게 빠신에도 당아 자주심 끼고도 선배 삼기에도 이 자주심 끼는 결혼이 잠바는 인지 공부를 잠니지를 공부할 때네 되는 자주심 끼가 말 잠니지 마음 자주심 끼도 말했어도 제사 당부 제부디시 다 제부디 주야라 유 디사고래서 잠바는 인지 공부를 해서 끼고래서 송월
The approach that the text is taking is one that's found fairly commonly in texts, where the result is first presented so that one gives rise to the aspiration to achieve that result. Thereafter, the cause is presented, because now the reader of the text or the receiver of the teaching has given rise to a wish to attain that result. Wanting that result, they are receptive to hear, how can I achieve it? What are those causes? So this is something that we know very well through advertising. Advertising will present whatever it is being sold as being this wonderful thing that will make one's life so much better. And then seeing this, being drawn in, one will think, I really want that. And then you'll think, do I have enough money? Do I need to save a little bit further? And so forth. What activities do I need to engage in so as to get what I desire? It's the same approach being taken here. First, the result is presented, so that one gives rise to the determination, I want to achieve that result. Then one seeks out the causes and strives to cultivate them.
가서래 마시 진진 로서 보면 잠반이죠. 공부하는 디지를 가서 사산은 기도를 디지에도나 자주심 기도를 자주심 공부하는 파주르긴 냠네 야보 제도를 디지에도나는 산요고마 토투를 해야 돼. 유디마 녀르신에 유디 공부하는 데부디 용을 해야 마 송나 지금 거를. 제가 마 송나들이야 당본 마 지금 마 송나들 즉 당본 데부디시 데부디 파인테도 데부토를 좀 받기 줘야 마안디 데부토를 줄마 배제줘야 마 지나 직제 야 당번에 유리 거시에 유디 냠는 제반의 데부디 용어를 디 냠는 데부디 용어를 해야 돼 유리 마니를 된제 안 데불 야야체 송나로 나서 이용거다 배시 넘긴다 네 라메게 최대한 당하지 상기게 최 송나 망제 디나 데네 송나 나는 뒤로 거래.
And so, on other occasions, a topic will be presented in the reverse sequence. First, the cause is presented, thereafter, the result. A clear illustration will be the sevenfold cause and effect method, where first one presents a sequence of causes leading to a result. So one reflects on the relationship we have with all beings as them being our mothers, and the kindness they have shown. Those are the causes that leads to the wish to repay their kindness. That then is a cause to generate a love and compassion for others in the way as being the way to repay their kindness. Those love and compassion then become the causes for their result of the wholehearted resolve, or the altruistic attitude of universal responsibility. And that itself is a cause for its result, that of bodhicitta, which itself is a cause for its result of Buddhahood. So this is the second way that topics are presented in the text, starting with the cause and leading to the result.
교나 나이게스 디 나서네 데네 나자 자이메 바차이데스 니게 리지 시도레세지 제상 유리 바니에 디 견진의 제부 동아 야 동아 강아요 책이요 받아 디 나시야제 어디 칼라 디사베네 수불레 도퓨 뉴슈 끼기래 뉴슈 깨베네 데네 것을 야 가르치나 제투브레세다 데네게 돈에 제상 당보 유리바 시에 디 제부 용다데 마가지 지딘비 제 지소 나래 데네게 랍시게 파지 용고로 받아.
And in society, the second way of presenting is also utilized. For example, one would be told, if you eat this, that you will gain a particular result. For example, if you eat this, you'll get sick. And if you really eat a lot of it, not only will you get sick, but you'll die. So in this way, you have a cause leading to a result. And alternatively, we said, well, if you eat this, you'll be healthy and you'll have lots of energy. So again, it's presented in a causal sequence, starting from the cause leading to the result.
디 나신 다다디 람림 나마 지가서 예 타바침베 람림 냠네 리바스도 당보 아니 제부디 장슈셈 제부디 바지 장슈셈 디 타비하게 제부디 파연디게시 다디 데네게 톱되게 덤바 되니 김바 제주 내 토발라 다 장슈셈 개발라 가르고서 잠바다 이제 자와레 제사다 잠바다 이제 곰게 얼마도 잠바다 이제 막음나 다 장슈셈 기투 말에 제산예래야 난 장슈셈 개발라 잠바다 이제 공부를 해서 디송도 하든 마.
And here Lama Tsongkhapa is stating that the result of bodhicitta as coming from its causes of love and compassion. And the entirety of the Lamrim, though, is a presentation of causes and their results, in that this is the particular graduated sequence in which to train one's mind.
나다 잠바다 인지 공부해서 잠바세데 심지어 탐제를 대화도 되나 심지어 탐제 대화도 되나 선배게 다 삼로디 제루와 잠바세 니제세데 심지어 탐제 누가다 자나 선배 삼로시와 진짜 디고고 끼고 그래라고 하다 다 디니 개발라 람상한테 심지어 탐제 대화도 되나 선배 심지어 탐제 누가다 자나 선배 삼로 끼도 말와 진짜 디마도 봐서 니 개발라 니래야 가르 장고래서네 심지어 잔다게 건설이야 동아 자고도 선배 삼로 야고지 개발라 니를 소수기 때문에 삼당 고래지래 그래서 소수기 때문에 삼당 소수기 돌에 지 야고지 삼당에 냠뇨르스 만든 게 해봐라 예선 되는 시간을 봐 삼당에 얘기 두래지 제가 되네 잠바는 인지 개월라로 와 송으로 와 제가 잠바는 인지 개발 안 대양 잠바는 인지 개발 되나야 당보 가르쳐 그랬으네 대양 소리 되냐봐 대양 랑 대외 풍시 동어 옛날 위 코위 삼술 그거 참술 삼바나 하술 제가 소수라랑 대화 매바 강아 대외 풍바다 안 동어 옛날 소리게 삼로 야고 땅 고래스 되는 땅바나 안 되는 땅에도 된도 땅로 장도 땅에 가슴 찔레 가려운 것은 바부 요구시 용고래스 바부세도 답에 삼땅에 가서 수부 부부디기 파랑용 가서 가빌랑 가서 두시 시나 게도 짜디게 랑용 되는 지 용고로 안디나시 파데니게 삼땅에 바부 수부기 빼지 달시게 하다 수부 부디기 야랑도 가서 짜디게 야랑용으로지 되는시 삼노 코로도 되니게 소화돼 고고래서 그렇다 제가 점점 삼반 바부 요구로 하지 고고래서
As we see here, the very root of bodhicitta is love and compassion. So love is the wish, may all sentient beings, without exception, abide in lasting happiness. And compassion is the wish, may all sentient beings, without exception, abide free of suffering. So this is the meaning of love and compassion. But to generate it in relationship to all sentient beings, without exception, is difficult. So one needs to start with oneself first. And this is why Lama Tsongkhapa then continues. When you are thinking about how you yourself are wandering in cyclic existence, deprived of happiness and oppressed by suffering. So here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, this is where you need to start. Start with yourself. Because to give rise to an actual wish that may every being without exception, no matter who they are, or how they treat me, or have treated me, may they abide in happiness, free of suffering. To generate such a wish, one has to start with oneself first. And one needs to reflect on one's own situation to the extent, as Lama Tsongkhapa then continues, if the hairs on your body do not rise up and stand on end, then there is no way the inability to bear how other sentient beings are deprived of happiness and oppressed by suffering can come about. So we know perhaps our hairs on our body rising up is something we're more used to when fear comes. So similarly, when one has such a visceral reaction to cyclic existence, there's determination to gain freedom from it. When one's determination is that strong in relation to oneself, then one is ready to generate genuine love and compassion for all.
예산다 그 신의 냠는지 림바디마 림바 송고 당아주 당보가주 지나 전주심 공부하라 전주심 공당에 냠는기 림바디 신고에 예치무 차거로 마신번에 전주심 공부에다 배야고에 등아 전주심 공부에서 제 삼다원에 기하고 주 차거로 그 냠는지다 림바디 신고에나 그 냠는시를 가리나 이제 레가로 제탄의 신고에네 dumdiwaya 제 야가를 제두고 봐 제나 마신번에 내는 망고 뒤수 지호 돌아줘야다 안 뒤수 돌아줘는 좀제 되면도 용거로 니나시 먼저 장주심 냠는 제다 림바디 신고를 되네 자다 델야 당보다 림바드 마선 당보 같이 오르스네 당보 소소를 하나를 삼다 소소를 되기 중 되기 매봐 되기 폰돼 봐 되기 대화 되게 대화 말아봐다 누가 면되거든 누가 예강가 여타되게 두신의 삼다제 두 삼당고래제래 제세 소소기 때도 삼당고래스 데네서서 삼단에 디 약고진 직바직 차도 소수기다 롤량 해봐라 빼지 냠용으로 약고 쌓인데 데네 샤인이 삼단에 미 삼로디 약고기 두래지요.
It's imperative that we have a very clear understanding of the stages in which to train one's mind. Because if one has the wish to become a bodhisattva, but doesn't know how to train one's mind, that wish will never be fulfilled. Or if one has an incomplete understanding and starts training at the wrong point, one will end up wasting years or decades. So therefore, it's imperative one understands the correct sequence to train, and that is to start with one's own situation, not to immediately going to wishing for others to be free of suffering, but first recognizing our own precarious situation. And as Lama Tsongkhapa presents it here, thinking about how you yourself are wandering in cyclic existence, deprived of happiness, oppressed by suffering. This needs to be recognized clearly so that one generates both a fatigue for this perpetual circling in cyclic existence, as well as a deep understanding of suffering and our lack of happiness and our lack of a hope for happiness as long as we remain bound in cyclic existence.
장타다 되는 장고를 세대 원마 송여로 와서 된마 되는시 장고를 송고 다든 아주 더더더더 쉬르베나 장나로 간다 장고를 세는 수수라 당아서 기부 충분히 투모 남기 삼당하들와다 랑기 때는 동아기 나서도 삼당 대외 폼와다 동에 나서 삼당고를 라르와 지진다 나서 삼당서 내가 대다시요 했는데 나점에 딕다시요 내가 민도 선배 샤 삼당에 민도 선배 삼는데 용도 하는 되는지 요말 되는 용구로 와.
So as we slowly move through the text, the detailed steps to meditate on will be presented. But just to have an overview for now, we need to start with our own situation because generally we move through life thinking things are okay, could be better, but it's okay. My health is good enough. It may not be fantastic, but it's okay. My general situation, so it's all right. And we have this sense of confusion about our actual situation.
한쪽에 삼다나디 간상고를 시대 다 소속에 지당 한쪽에 nyawa seada, ida seada, diniki, dunga diki, pa dini yore se pechina shesha bada, kiwi shinyin zan du su yore, shi pa tue ba diki, dunga, dini dunga yore wasan peke, da samno da dunruwa dunga da diniki, da diniki dunga yore ba di samdama da lamsang nganzule, diti yore senpe samma nganzule ya, ji supul ya, yang babu guya di, chowa di le tu yo ma de, karsane, pasho le tuanya di tungor de, dini yore senpe samdangurwa. 다 dine samdane dine yoba digi shasanga dangpo dine yore se dine su digi da sachi dili ya kazme didi ruwa lamga linma sona bine didi yore didi jotan dine kanga dine kanga yore se chi yore ba dina jin sachi dili ya nyawa kede chanyan de se de kiwa ne kanga dine yore se jangye se dine chi yore dili ya kanga dine yore se da ida li keba na da kanga dine yore se 다 dunzhul kyewe ne, 다 kanga dine yore, 다 dunzhul kyewe kanga dine nga mangboshi tong tu go ra, nga zuki, 다 ha mogo mangboshi go ra, chizan dunga li yore se, du chazan ha go wa che, ha go chane, dine ha go chane, 다 rangding do samdang la ra, 다 sosu dine samdang ra, 다 sosu rangding do samdang se, disu dunga di rang, da dite nga zo lyo ma ra, rangding do samdang se, nga dele kyewe ina se go ra, dine nga dele kye sona karchi ga re se, nga dele kye na, 다 동아도 연구로 왔어. 그래서 삼다 din소할 수를 이거 다 가지래. 나 대기에서나 다 냐와 변에 제 장야다 찬야다 되니기 변에 제고 동아 쇼지 여봐. 나 대기에 변에다 아제 다 강아 쇼 책으로 와. 선배 다 지네 소화지 레어도 오 텔레데 되는 망고반에 텔레 맞게야지 탑시 제고도 선배 되네. 신의 영원 들고 봤더니 뒷바디 쇼셔야 되고. 제가도 장된도 삼당스데 당보 강아 여사되기 딘딘딘디 유여바디 하고 삼다 제 대등야위 동아다 이다의 동안 아주 연구 말아봐 만요도 아주 딘딘디 요래 삼바스 마도 디지게 소화기 타메버래 다지 랑팅도 삼다도 가 델게 바이나스도 가르게다스 가 델게 나스도 삼다도 다께는 딘딘 연구를 삼베 삼다도 소소리 아다디 지말을 삼베 되니 소화리 리고로 봐 되니 삼 두치는 랑팅도 삼당고래서 지 당보 동아디기 딘딘딘 삼다 하고 와치 하고 와서는 다 nga deke ba ina dunga nyonggo ya ane kewa saya mega goga meba ane je de dendele kongro dang denegi gigor den diwang yane yado ane dele geje den dele ya tara gine goga meba chaso so dene imben다 오 당하 kewa chima dele ma kewa chi den가 탑시 인지미지 제고도 선비게 샘슈도 리고래
Great importance when hearing teachings that we relate to the teachings in the way that Lama Tsongkhapa has advised us earlier in the text, which is to take the teachings as direct personal instructions, personal meditation advice, and relate to the teachings in a personal manner. Because if one does not, then the teachings and oneself will always have a separation between them and yourself. In particular, with those which are with the teachings which are about topics which are a little removed from our own lived experience in this life. For example, when the presentation comes to the sufferings of the lower realms, it's all too easy to hear the words and with some faith accept that these things exist. And the teachings come and they go, and there's no impact on the mind. This is very easy to come about. Rather, one should hear the teachings, listening to what the sufferings are like for beings in the hot hells, in the cold hells, in the occasional hells, the neighboring hells, sufferings for the various spirits such as the pretas, sufferings for the various type of animals, recognizing that there are countless beings right now suffering in the way described. How would it be for me if in my next life I am born there? If my next life comes very soon, and that is my lived experience, how would it be for me? And then reflect in the way that the topic is presented, as if you yourself were potentially experiencing that, as if you are being shown your own likely rebirth. Then, by making the presentation very personal like that, it will have a visceral reaction similar to what's described above. If the hairs on your body need to rise up and stand on end. So through skillful meditation, that kind of visceral reaction will come about. And this emotional response is a skillful method to bring about a rise of a lasting determination to change habitual tendencies, to change habit patterns, to shake us from our own confusion and delusion, and to bring about a change and turning away from non-virtue and embracing virtue.
네 가시 양지게 오다 강아데 되네기 냐와도 동아서야 되네 다 소소기 기워지데 되네 삼단도 소소 셈을야 강아 수야디 태와지 강아 망아지 용서를 선비게다 되네기야 고메바 용시바레 미 코르스 삼나서 요르바다 되네 용구리.
But certainly for some, they don't even want to hear about the sufferings of the lower realms. They find this presentation really off-putting. And they, not only don't they want to hear about it, they certainly don't want to spend a moment thinking about it.
진짜 람미기 상계다 근데 최가를 소비네 데미 감나 뉴샤다 감나 메발 튠비게 토네 코로나야 미 손세 메딜야 가르셰바나 판도체 용고바디 두스체네 송다지레 인자 제주 람림 소야디게 체두 체베 두자 조미 벌이 해니마 벌이야 송고로 와디 조지게 네 람런디 벌이야 당보 송고로와 지자 벌 송와레 지자 람런 나라도 송와자 람런게 제와 제르미체다 두소디다 벌기 근데 지금 그래서 로마설이야 송고로 지자 딜이야 콘솔이야 두스종제네 니 판도하다 아니 케벤 편도 체지 연구요로 와다. 다디네 아주 데네 아직 냐와다 데네게 강아야 즉 데네신데 기우메디가 데네기 삼로 지여겐 저야 가실이야 아직 데네게 셰 먹어체 디지송만하지 장유승이 판연당 잠니지게 판연당 배 약고라 데네 송인데 한 델리야 배즉 장유승 비게가 판연다 데네게 돈이 좀 슉치 먹기 다디 장고도 장고도 선배 삼 당에도 아니 내내게 돈이 유행이질이야 지금 내내게 톤에 판도 죽투게 지외네 냐와 둥아다디 셰 먹어지 안디냐 두스네 저 삼당 데 판도 유외네 될이야 어다 잠바데 니지 공부를 해서데 안 지자 안 개와지면 원료 고방 토야기 원료 고방 될이야 아니 기계바 죽투고래 디파샤투래 민검냠는 제투고래 원료 거다 가서 가서 둥아디게 마시바지 원료 하다미 고방 될이야 먼저 강아요 나 강아세 투고래 나 곰자 투고래 냠려야고 제투고래 디네 잠 원료 고방 토고래 세상 원료 고방 토발라 하나 이제 주름 송고래 하나 짐바 나와 냠는 제고래 세대 니위 둥아디게 마시바지 가서 둥아디 마시바지 루스네 원료 고방 토에 유디게 냠내 제주 셰셰다 다 원료 고방도 딘델이야 안 자주 쓰면 고면하다 두스 냠내 제 연구를 했어도 소유되다 원료 고방 토에 된다라 아니 디코는 원료 고방 토에 유출은서도 소유 짐바다서 봐 아니 제소 냠내 제마 송 안디네 안 지금 원료 고방 딘델이야 아니 지금 저게 한 잠니 주 고면하다 한 전에 펜바지 로봇이야 되게 냠내 제월 되지는 두시네 셈기고를 했어도 두 송하지 연구를 받아.
So there certainly are those for whom they have no wish. In fact, more than not having a wish, they have a negative reaction to even hearing about the sufferings of the lower realms. So here we should bear in mind that the Buddha, in his extensive teachings, taught in accordance with the various dispositions and inclination of beings. And when the Lamrim tradition was created by Atisha, he created it for the Tibetan people of many centuries ago. And in his composition, Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, he presented this particular sequence of meditations. But for some, though, hearing about the lower realms, they find quite off-putting, or it doesn't motivate them. For some, what will motivate them much more is hearing about the benefits of bodhicitta and recognizing and giving rise to the wish to become a bodhisattva. They will then think, I have to ensure I continue to achieve good rebirths where I'm connected to the Dharma and I have the mental capacity and the qualities of sight and hearing so that I can engage in studies and the material conditions so I can engage in my spiritual developments. Therefore, I will ensure I accumulate the causes to achieve further good rebirths. So here, the person comes to the same result, which is to engage in ethical restraint, generosity, and so forth, so as to achieve a good rebirth. But they do so without necessarily generating any fear for rebirth in the lower realms. And that is because, in accordance with their own disposition, that presentation does not work for them. They find it off-putting. So rather, they follow a positive inclination, one towards attaining the goal of bodhicitta. So therefore, practitioners can style their practice in accordance with their own particular disposition and inclination.
Nadang on the Mashede, that Lamrim de Sungabas and Limna dos Chasadi Google Sunshine Rod, just that imagine or that Lemon as in Chasashi Jengiroa.
So therefore, some, perhaps many, will be more motivated to enter into the Mahayana, to become a bodhisattva, and therefore will want to train in bodhicitta, and will understand that the root cause of bodhicitta is love and compassion. So this is what they'll want to train in. And in order to train in that, they have to have a good rebirth in the higher states. And for that, they need to accumulate the causes of ethics, generosity, patience, and choice, perseverance, and prayer. So this may well be the style of approach that appeals to some. But we have the original text, the traditional text presented here, which covers all the topics of the Lamrim. And therefore we'll cover it in the way that the text is presented. Because by gathering knowledge, one thereby is able to train in a way that's in accordance with oneself, but also has further knowledge to help others in the future, help them train in a way that's in accordance with their disposition. So therefore, there are many benefits in training, in studying the entirety of the text, even if there are some parts which you don't feel so inclined towards.
이제 강아세 강아 뒤는도 다치다 강아 세우고도 강아에 세게 돈달이야 지게 최지 제고도 선배게 근데 강아 세제 강아 세게 돈달이야 만주기 최님네 제야지 최를 발로 저지야지 용거로 받아 지게 내는 간주로 내 충분히 지게 간주 지게 파면은 유비기 더네 아니 그 충분 발 최게 발로 저지가 당셔도 뭐 강아 섬다나 강아지 태고도 그 강아데 세고 디 강아세 탑람디 최대 약시 최디 제 된달 최치고 선배게 삼로지 코라지 잘 최지가 리교스 로교스 자기가 말하는 것도 되네게다 뭐에도 보면 뭐 되네게 충진 맞아가 다시 꼭 가서 판매 검신이 유비 돈도신 판매 대바진 판매기 대바진 도시 다 두고로 근데 가서 글리글리신데네 내수디 파장도야 장아 오딘이 딘들에 와서 장은 뭐 당보거나 장아들네 어디 강아지들 딱 강아지들 타고 대서 주님의 제고도 선배 삼는 다시 두고 말와다 줘요 말와 배안도 보라지네 다양하게 지금 이게 직에서 직 충심에 되어서 my some shit, Lobsang Dorje, then did the church, and I live on the or that in the Ganga, the Ganga say, Tablam did the church, I would was me, Ganga's tongue, Ganga de Segi, Dondala, Chenyam the church, Lobsang and Yungur, but this is a church, Tambo, Lobsang Chidia, or Riklas Mason, Nyungdua.
So there are different motivations to engage in Dharma practice. One approach is so as to overcome problems and difficulties, and thereby knowing that the Dharma will help one deal with the hardships of life, one wants to engage in the Dharma. So therefore, the problems and difficulties one encounters can serve as a great motivation to cultivate the Dharma within. And in terms of, for example, for ordaining, so there are those who ordain not as young children, but perhaps under their own volition when they're a little older, and they've gained some experience of life, and they've come to understand that the Dharma can help them with the troubles and difficulties of life, and help them, in fact, gain freedom. So that's one style or one a form of practice, or maybe form of motivation to engage in the Dharma so as to overcome problems. The converse, though, is also the case, where in order to attain happiness, one engages in the Dharma. And there, knowing that through engaging in the Dharma, the mind will become ever more happy, or ever more peaceful. This is an alternative motivation. And so in the case of many Tibetans who enter into monastic life, they are usually sent by their parents as young children. So the children join the monasteries and nunneries because their parents have sent them, not out of any volition from their own side. And their parents haven't sent their children to the monasteries and nunneries so that they can gain freedom from suffering, because they don't have much education in the Dharma themselves, but they have deep faith. And they know that their children will gain happiness by entering into the monasteries and nunneries and cultivating the Dharma within. So therefore, there are these two different approaches one can take to the Dharma. Either engaging in the Dharma so as to overcome problems and difficulties, or engaging in the Dharma so as to gain ever more peaceful state of mind.
이상 내내기 내 밤에기 또 순걸 제랍제 잡혔던 거디 내 보고 나를 샤서면 배는 아주 나로시네 충주가 아주 고다 칼라세세제 근데 메뉴 paratilya 아마다 바바기 근데 저거 최신나 된데 판도 여러 소소다 디게 된데 연구를 선세데 어제 최야 전부를 시기 말 시두고 신고 말이네 된게 최 내상하고 되서스다 거는 하고 가지고 망부가서 고다 착신도지 망제디 시기를 되네게 제가 시기월에 이내 당주기 다다 내 강아세다 디기를 최대 약원서 선배 삼문한테 그 되네시 연구 말하네 야사 삼다이도 오다디니마 파마디 랍지게 빼야고래도 와서 배되네게 되기도 빼야고래 해셔야 되네게 시에바디 야고 중시아서 배가 삼로 지 신이 곧 삼로 되기도 하고
My individual case, when I was young, we'd have supper together. Then our parents would say to myself and my sisters, they would talk to us about the Dharma. Now, they certainly were not particularly educated in the Dharma, but they would tell us Dharma stories, talk about topics of the Dharma as well as they understood. And this was the main topic of conversation in the evening, our parents talking to us about the Dharma. And then when I was younger, we took this for granted. This is just what children did with their parents, or the parents did with their children in the evening. But when I was older, then I was able to really appreciate just what my parents did for us children.
디게 삼마다제 총들이야 야야 고주외나 지진에 된다데 야고 줍투래 지진나 강아 망고 체기래 근데 지진은 언셈을 로자 어다 강아 제 총디 잡투서 말봐 바 셈르 다야게 용거와 지나 난 양지 총 옆뒤가로 총의 캡상의 통 이견디의 통 지사다 총 예를 강아 디네가데가데 용구여 버지 강아 차사 하고지 하고는 때 강아 세계 탑람디게 디네딘 두아스며 삼다지 차사 하고는 냠는 최총 예배는 디네콜이야 총디 네 띵부여야지나 강아시라 마트야다 네 지게 셈바디에 띵부여야다 냠여 중국으로 와다 가지고 인디난시 당아 저기 최 장주쌤 냠는 제바들이 지사당아 저기 당보 강아 용나디게 강아 딘딘딘데 여바디게 차사 하고 와지 하고네 때 강아 딜레사 타야게 탑람디 가르가르 여바디야 하고 와지 하고지네 디네 장주쌤 원료 고방 토야 탑람는 배주 제베이나다 탈비오 고방 토야 탈 배주 제베이나 지자 당보 강아디게 하고래 데드네 강아디네 용구래 강아세에 탑람 디디 열에서베 삼당에도 지자 강아지 용 태베네 강아세에 탑람디 디냠네 제디 템바로 차그로 와다 가서로 템바 용구라 가서 강아디네 용구래 강아디 용구래 강아디세야 삼노 디네 땅고래 디지 제고래 디제바는 제부 두고래서 배 삼당에도 디 로디 삼당하디 템바로지나 야가지와 지샤고로와 다 되네기 다 원dio 고바 빼 제부디 야보슈 통 안디 강아 용나디 하모가체 다디 제부 용에게 돈달 베지 제요디 갑라 다 강아 망보레 체요디 되네셈 어다디 두투사마레셈 비게 안셈 슈미알라서 바다 디네기 용으로와 지사 되네 인삼 다 강제레 돈달랑 저기 당보 강아디게 바자체 강아다 하고 와치 강아드 세계 탑람다 하고 와치 디시 아니 디하고네 되네 제부디 토비하게 된다로 원dio 고방 토야다 타바다 템지 기부 고방 토야게 냠는 제바이나 디 냠는 제디 됐 롤마선데 템바로치 고고서 탑라네 템바로 체고로 양 강아디게다 디네 삼균에 마다지 빈이 제부 꺄냐 삼다지 디 토비하던 베즈 제용도 갑라 아니 디 됐 메덴바라지 가 가시미 야보지 조투가 용거데 이내 가시 난 지디 아니 메덴바데 가서 강아지도 어다 디네스도아 디네도아다 용사마라 선베게다 좀데 마튼바다 아니 두시니 용시바로와 진짜 디니 자다데 냠는 치당은 안에다 두숭아디 고 셈리아 템바 용거래다
As mentioned in the world of business or perhaps of advertising, there are two approaches, just like there are two approaches here in the Dharma. So in the world of advertising, then a product may well be presented with all the wonderful benefits of that product. And then you think, oh, how wonderful it would be if I had that. And then you'll go out and seek it. So similarly, in the Dharma, the benefits of a particular result can be presented so that one gives rise to the desire to attain that result and then seek out what are the causes that I need to cultivate so as to achieve that result. So that's one approach taken in the Dharma, but it's not the approach in terms of the presentation or the sequence of trainings in the Lamrim. The Lamrim takes the opposite presentation, or the opposite approach, which is, for example, if it was, again, from the world of advertising, the advertiser would be saying, oh, you have this problem and that problem, and here is the solution to it. So first you recognize your problems, and then you realize there's a solution, and then you will work for that solution. So it's the opposite approach, and that's the approach that Lamrim takes, where first one recognizes the difficulties of my current situation. And this takes quite some work to actually wake up to the difficulties of our current situation, and thereby give rise to the aspiration to be freed of this, and then we'll strive for the better state, the state of liberation and enlightenment. And which of the two approaches is more effective for an individual depends on their own disposition. But the advantage of the approach taken in the Lamrim is that whilst it's very easy to be drawn into a desirable result, if one needs to have a very strong motivation to achieve that result when one will encounter many hardships and difficulties, because one can all too easily give up, because that desired result actually seems quite difficult. Whereas the approach of the Lamrim, the opposite approach, one recognizes my situation is difficult and freedom is possible. But because my situation is difficult, I understand there will be hardships in order to attain that goal. Will be worth it to persevere through these hardships because freedom is possible. So the advantage of the approach or the sequence that is presented in the Lamrim is that it starts out with this realistic recognition that my life is difficult, and to achieve freedom from these suffering realms of samsara will take forbearance. I will need to persevere through many difficulties, and that helps give one strength of mind to continue for the length of time required to gain freedom.
제가 디니게 바부 요구 태바지 마중 바이나 디니게 삼롯 바 디니 슈슈 마게 바이나 디니 심제 탐제 대화의 된고도 심제 중앙 자고 심배 삼다바나 이 삼로 약고 기투 말이지 심제 탐제 대외 포신 중앙에 나와라 미쉐 바옹 원사메 제가 이 말이스 제가 소수기 삼 소시 때라 삼다제다 디니게 타고도 디기데 된고 중앙에 타고도 심배 삼로 빼지 디니지 바부 요구 제득이 뉴바리 마튼 바이나 현심전에 삼다제 심전 탐지 대화 된고도 심전 동안 자고도 심배 삼다 공바이나 디니기 삼노디 약고시 두 말이에서 그러다 원삼에서
Similarly then, the great benefit of this approach of the Lamrim is that by recognizing one's own situation and giving rise to the determination to gain freedom from one's own suffering, that's the first part of this final sentence, one will have the sufficient strength of mind to deal with hardships for the sake of others. One will not be overwhelmed with helping others, feeling it is just too much for me, I'll work for my own good alone. One will have the strength of mind. So that's the meaning then of the second part of the sentence. Well, let's read the whole thing together. When you are thinking about how you yourself are wandering in cyclic existence, deprived of happiness and oppressed by suffering, if the hairs on your body do not rise up and stand on end, then there is no way the inability to bear how other sentient beings are deprived of happiness and oppressed by suffering can come about.
ngele ko ba thoba chanju sim ko bala tin yungres jizade dine za chanju sim di dine ke bala nyela khar kom gorsen jamba da nije magom ba gyule ma ke ba chanju sim ke tu ma de chezan di chanju sim ke bala nyela ane jamba da nije kom gores ta jam simje tamje dewa de demba da simje donga da jawa sho simbe samlo yabu chi ke bala di nyel ya so rang so so rang ge den do degi de dengo ba da shi rang ni ko ye donga le tar고 가서 동아래 탈도게 삼바디 깨바디 아니 녀를 될이야 로장고레스 디네 로장의 소소기 아다가 동아 마탄데 강 동아들 마탄데 탑 민우 세비게 디니게 셈리야 바부 요고 디니게 삼 소와 축심부 레드 디네 셈젤 미네 디기 잠바콤이야다 니주 공바네 야고숑고레스 당아제 량한족이 잔주심 깨야리야 주 가르고스 잠바네 니주 공고레 잠바네 니제 녀를 깨발라 대 기부 총의 투모람 이름 받지 장고레스 기부 증다 투모람 이름 기부 총의 투모람 이름 받지 장고레스 림발 마소나 두시 마송고레 다 야셰바나 당보 기부 총의 투모람 이름 받 로장 되네 기부 증다 투모람 이름 로장 되네 잠 인시고 되네 자주심 깨고레스 중고라.
To summarize what we looked at tonight was presented how the different ways that the text can be presented, from result to the cause or from the cause to the result. So what's being presented in this section is first the benefits of bodhicitta, so that one gives rise to the determination to become a bodhisattva, because that is the overall purpose of the Lamrim. So from the outset, this is what we should, this wish to become bodhisattvas is why we should be engaging in the entirety of practice here. But the reasons are set out for that here. That the benefits of bodhicitta are that one will not fall to the lower realms, but only attain rebirths in the higher realms, and one will progress towards and eventually attain the lasting happiness of enlightenment. But to achieve bodhicitta, one requires subsequent causes, those of love and compassion. But love and compassion themselves, to actually generate them, one first has to recognize one's own situation, generate self-compassion for one's own situation. And one here needs to reflect on one's own situation to the point where the hairs on one's body rise up and stand on end. In other words, one gives rise to this deep and abiding determination to gain freedom from suffering and its causes. Only then will one have a sufficient strength of mind to radically change one's habitual tendencies and have the strength of mind to gain freedom, freedom from suffering, and to develop actual love and compassion. And the way the text itself, when the main body of the text starts with the next chapter, is laid out, is in this reverse sequence, where instead of starting with the benefits of bodhicitta, as mentioned here, one starts at the beginning, the training shared of a practitioner of initial capacity, building on that, the training shared with a practitioner of intermediate capacity. And then, when the mind is powerful and focused, one then is able to actually engage in the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of great capacity. Then thank you. We'll conclude there for tonight. Thank you.